Mr. Dodaro, your agency released an estimate of at least $60 billion in UI fraud, which I think we can all agree is scratching the surface of this problem. I know our committee, Congress, and surely the American people would appreciate GAO continuing to investigate with your resources and size and scope of the UI fraud, and you all have made such a commitment to do so. When should this committee expect to receive an updated and more expansive review of UI fraud from GAO?
Yeah, first I want to make clear that the $60 billion estimate, as we've reported, is the low end, the low bound estimate. We're working on a higher end estimate right now. We should have something available later this summer to discuss with the committee. We're taking two approaches. One, we're doing some modeling approaches, and we also might need to take a sample of transactions. Part of the problem has been there's been not even an improper payment rate yet for the pandemic unemployment insurance program, which we think and others that has a higher level of susceptibility to fraud. So later this summer, we should have those estimates available.
Okay. And will you commit to coming to this committee and requesting assistance should you have any challenges getting information from the Biden administration about UI fraud?
Absolutely.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Horowitz, last year in his 2022 State of the Union address, President Biden announced the creation of a chief pandemic prosecutor to serve as director for COVID-19 fraud enforcement and to lead criminal and civil enforcement activities. The DOJ announced in March 2022 that Associate Deputy Attorney General Kevin Chambers would serve in that role. My understanding is Mr. Chambers left the role in December and the position is being temporarily filled by an acting director. We invited the acting director to this hearing, but he declined to show up. Besides the apparently vacant role of the chief pandemic prosecutor, DOJ also runs the National Unemployment Insurance Fraud Task Force, but we have been unable to get the agency to share any updates on what the task force is doing. So what is the relationship between and what coordination, if any, exists between the Pandemic Response Accountability Committee, the DOJ's chief pandemic prosecutor, and the National Unemployment Insurance Fraud Task Force?
So there's several interactions. First of all, we've been a member of the Justice Department's task force since it was created. We attend their regular meetings. We participate in the meetings with about 30 other law enforcement agencies to make sure we're coordinated and to make sure cases are handled as we and our IG partners are developing information. As I mentioned in my opening statement, we've also detailed one of our pandemic response accountability analysts to the task force that deals with national unemployment insurance fraud to support that effort. And we're doing all we can with our resources to support it. I'd have to refer you to the Justice Department for comment about when they plan to fill the vacancy. I do know that the deputy is the acting chair of it.
Okay. Since we could not get them to come and testify, do you have any insight as to what DOJ is doing to identify and recover fraudulently paid unemployment benefits?
I do know from our work with them and my work as Justice Department Inspector General, as we refer cases to the prosecutors around the country, that they are moving forward with them. I think one of the challenges the department is having and prosecutors are having, frankly, is triaging them. Given the resources available and the surge in cases that you've heard about from IG Turner, as well as we know from the SBA IG on PPP and EIDL-related fraud. So I think that's been one of the challenges. One of the reasons we've asked for an increase in the Program Fraud Civil Remedies Act jurisdictional amount is because of our concern that lower dollar frauds may not make it through that thicket for prosecution, and we at least want to make sure we can recover the money for the taxpayers.
All right. Any insight into whether the Biden administration has any plan to appoint another chief pandemic prosecutor, given that the president's prominent announcement last year at the State of the Union, or was that just a talking point in 2022?
As I sit here, they have not consulted me, and I wouldn't expect them to on their plans. I would expect that to happen, and I would be happy to get back to you, Mr. Chairman, and the committee with any data or information you need from them if you haven't received it.
Appreciate all the information. I now recognize the ranking member.